Hello, welcome to part number 5 in my Sequential Growth Series, talking a bit about what I'm calling organic math. If you're brand new to my channel, my name is Allie with A. Marie Speaks. Thank you for joining and checking out this video. You can certainly watch it. It probably would be more beneficial to watch from the start, from part 1 up through this 5th part that we're at here now, mostly because the learning is sequential and each stage and phase builds into the next. I mean, you can certainly learn here about phase 4, point of view number 4, which is what I'm kind of talking about today, and then learn about the other ones afterwards. It doesn't have to be in the order that I'm offering, but I feel the material is best seen from that angle right now. But anyways, just as a sort of recap for anybody who is new, or also just for ourselves to sort of recap where we're at, this video is going to be talking about how energy flows. And so this series here is a bit of a 2-part kind of series. We'll see if it develops into other parts. But this first section is about how energy flows to manifest into solid form. After we talk about the structural movement and architecture, we will talk about the numeric values and numbers, which I really call sequential growth, the numbers, and how those numbers flow, pass through the flow, basically. So first I'll talk about the flow, then we're going to talk about the numbers, and then afterwards I'm going to show you how the numbers match into the flow. Now, this is sort of my real crappy notes here that I've been bringing up so far, just to recount kind of where we're at here. We're moving from linear into this staircase model I call the sequential model, or the stepping stones. Then we have our third point of view, which is the spiral or the helix, the spiral staircase. Our fourth point of view, which we'll talk about today, which is the circular point of view, or the cyclitic understanding of cycles. Then we'll move into 5, which is the lemniscat, and then we'll move into 6, which is the toroidal view. 7 is the geometric view, and then we'll have 8. We'll talk about 8 and 9, which are non-physical, more of what the container is all about for 8, and then what is held within and what is without is what 8 reflects. The karmatic repercussions and retribution that come through the creation of the steps and stages of 1 to 7. 8 is kind of like that karmatic holding together of everything, and then 9 seals the deal and sets the boundary, and it also links in with number 1. They're very close to each other, sort of like the bookends that hold everything together, and so they mirror each other very much. And then we'll get to that when we get there. Today's topic is the circular view, understanding, like I spoke and brought into the third point of view in the last video, about what we're going around and how truth and oneness, God source, is the center point that everything is actually flowing around. When we move into this 4th stage, 4th point of view, the totality comes into play. We start to realize what we're circling around. You start to see this circling and circling of upwards in the staircase, that you think you're in a staircase spiral, that the middle never changes. And in fact, what we think we go through on these journeys, these external turning points that we think we're really, making headway in the spiral and the helix, we think we're really still moving away in this very linear fashion of proximity. We think we're really coming away from the center point, the truth. Or there's this separated viewpoint of what the center and truth is. Say that even as you go up the spiral, that centering point is different, which is totally plausible when we look from certain perspectives. So not to say that it's incorrect. It's not incorrect at all. It's just there's more that meets the eye to the picture. And that's what I'd like to bring up in this video here. This circling around gives us a signal and lets us know, oh yeah, I've been here before, and the seasons, the true cycles, the having opposite poles, and going around the opposite 1 and 2 that 3 does, create such a gradient between 1 and 2 that we start to see 1.5 and we start to see 2.5 in this sort of halfway markers between 1 and 2, right? And this becomes 3 and 4. Now we have a great quad that we understand about midway points, right? Just like we have winter and summer, and we have fall and spring, and we have black and white, and then we have the gray scale in between, right? This becomes very apparent and very purposeful and important in stage 4, because in the 4th point of view, we're building foundations. We're setting up structure and looking for stability, balancing, right? And when we're looking and seeking for balance, we start to remember the wholeness of the thing. We start to remember, oh yeah, it's all the same. Oh yeah, each day seems like a totally different day, but they all follow the same night-day pattern. These things that seemed like so separate start to come together and look not so different. And it's true magic in a sense of God's source creation, of understanding, sort of the epiphany, the eye-opening moments that come together to show the integral, holistic collectivity of everything, of your projects, of yourself, of your life, of reality, of external people out there, of lifetimes. All of these things sort of start to mirror each other and start to really, you start to feel the encircling, the circumference that's been traced out starts to become very obvious. And also, in this 4th point of view, it's really about holistic balance. The center point truth here is also something that I really hope to express out as a variable that we can just put God in, or we could put the Creator, or you can put your higher self, or this sort of connection to the universe, to the higher organic template, whatever you like to refer to, and name that. It's all the same, and it really doesn't matter the deviations or delineations that we try to put on that, because the infinite wholeness knows it's whole, So we can call it what we want to call it. You could try to excuse it away or even disconnect from it, but the more you come back to it, you realize you can't actually ever even disconnect from it. That's how whole it really is. And when we start to see energy flowing in this great way, we can see examples of it everywhere, these different cycles. And that can really be great external confirmation into remembering where you are. And when we learn about how the numbers flow through here, you can really get a sense of where you're at. And it helps troubleshooting, it helps problem solving, it helps growing goals, projects with others even. And communication with others too, comes in very nicely when we start to gain maturity in these in this 4th stage, because it really is about settling down and hearkening into those strong points of, that have been so clearly outlined with 1 and 2, and 3 creates the nice buffer zone, the sort of dotted line of whatever needs to be encircled by 4, because 4 will be sort of like the boundary home that circles around what I talked about in the last video about 3 being the triadic creation, reflecting not only the Holy Trinity in that wonderful sense, but also our basic family unit, our mother, father, and child are that materially formed and manifested version of that great metaphysical beautiful promise. And like I talked about in the last video about 3 really going in between 1 and 2 and into its own spaces as well, and into things that 1 and 2 didn't really see before. All of this cleared ground gets circled by the home and by this firm boundary of isness, of security, of protection, and stability. And that's really what 4 in itself, even when we look at numeric values, we'll see that 4 represents that. And again, in my little drawings, I have 4 as the square dots, you know, and 4 represents the square. Again, there's polarity choices, and there's intention that we can talk about, because this can solidify bad boundaries. This can really turn into when a home is a prison. And that does happen. And, you know, there's plenty of examples out in the world where mismanaged and incorrect alignments lead to this solidification of prison around us. That we create inescapable walls, no windows, no freedom. But those types of structures are formed off of lies, right? And so when 5 comes in, we'll talk about that in the next stage, the prisons fall apart. They get broken, you know, because they cannot stand the light and truth of Creator that comes through with catalytic 5. It breaks it down, breaks the chains, it breaks the walls. It cannot stand because it doesn't stand on truth. Conversely, when we build a good home, when we have organic positive structurings and free-flowing interactions between all units, 1, 2, and 3, it is a firm foundation that home will withstand hard storms. That even when little things, break, or if there's a storm whipping against the home or whatever, it was built with a caring eye, and it withstands those things. And even if, a little thing breaks here or there, through 5, we'll come back and we'll correct it and re-solidify the boundary, the foundation of 4 that's been created. You know, versus having to realize the whole home needs to be demoed, you know, and you got to start from the whole ground up, which can sometimes be what happens when we falsely built 4. This is discernment. This is power of creator consciousness. I believe this is what we're here to cultivate as human beings. We've been bestowed with this great conscious capacity to make choices and to see where they take us and to bear the consequences and to bear witness to them. You know, not to bear them on ourselves and to hold them to ourselves, but to set them free and set ourselves free in new creative processes by accepting things that don't work and trying to seek through truth and strong resonance that which does work and align and stay stable. And so I guess this is going to be a little bit of a shorter video. I sort of brought forth everything that I thought I would kind of talk about with just the flow and just the circular way of a recycle. Now, we can think of it just as a clock. It works really well as seeing a clock and knowing every day we have the same clock, counting those same hours, but every day is new. Just like seasons. Every year has these 4 seasons. If you live where I live, some people, you know, you have a different delineation of seasons, of course, but it's every year is different, but we go through the same patterns. 4 really is that mature step up that understands about longevity, withstanding through time, and how over reoccurring commitment strength is created, right? Or conversely, we are taught that slack and cutting corners, half-assing things, or putting blinders on and just trying to find quick fixes, that creates greater instability. It's a false sense of stability that we're creating for ourselves. And learning about what that false sense feels like, so that we can get out of that and lean into truth and what it feels like to build with our truth at the center of what we're doing at all times. Because just like this, the spiral and even the circle, we can get lost out in, the peripheral. And we can be doing a lot of linear work in the peripheral and totally not even focusing on the truth, and never being called towards the true center, never listening to that calling that brings us all the way around to see things full circle, to see ourselves full circle. I think really through the guidance of the numbers and reaffirming where you're really at in your tide and flow, that we can break out of those inorganic manipulations that we get lost in, where we get diving down into trying to fit the linear segments, the one short segments that I talked about in the first point of view, into number 4. You're never going to get a beautiful spiral. You're never going to be following the true path into the center, into the mystery of it all, and into the adventure of it, if you're trying to do segment by segment, little one controlled points. They're always going to have that sharp angle that's never going to look like the gradual wonderful spiral, because you're not following your truth. Eye is not on the center point of everything that circles around, and you're not listening to the seasons, the tides, and the flow that leads you through on your path through this. You're still trying to make it your own, and you're still trying to see from one step to the next step clearly, controlling through your own mindset where these things are going. But creation doesn't work like that, and we should have learned, and we should go back into stage number 3 if we're really micromanaging in 4, and remember about free flow, remember childlike innocence, remember about bumps and bruises and fumbles and making your way through things, and remember about how organic life creates space. It is through, just like muscle is tearing to grow stronger, it is kind of these harder things, kicking around ground. A path is worn by walking. So that the home circumference is beaten down by the mother and father chasing the kid around the whole area. By your 1 and your 2 version of yourself going around with the 3, taking notes from the 3, learning from that 3. Allowing yourself to embody the 3 as much as you can, consciously stepping out of your controlling number 1 and your opposing number 2, and looking for middle ground, looking for harmonious solutions, looking to hear both sides of that spectrum from a clear neutrality point that would be the child, that would be the middle ground between the 2, and trying to listen and hear from their point of view, right? All of these things, it takes repetition. It takes many different points of view and experiences in order to sort of beat that ground down, right? To have a firm foundation that then we put the pillars on, that we have our cornerstones built on. And again, what are the cornerstones? And we have to make sure those cornerstones are organically set, that they are not this, that we're not taking poor imagery, negative alignments, and solidifying them in each corner, but instead that we are looking for those, the best carved blocks that really we did our best work on, that we really took our time to measure out, and that we know they're strong, and setting them there, it's very important, especially this is probably the last thing that I'll talk about with stage number 4 in the home reference. I really love this sort of creating the home and 4 showing that circular boundary that we could call the home that the family resides within, because it's a place of privacy. And if we can create within ourselves this diverse fractal family and honor it and hold a privacy space of security for ourselves, we get away from external confirmation and validation. We get away from wondering what neighbors think, or the grandparents might say, or your friends, or the aunties and uncles out there. When we're in our family unit, it's very private. It's very personal. And if we can all build from the same page, we know the focus is in the center of the home. Everything we need is in here. We could totally disregard almost the external world and still have a microcosm of that beautiful, organic, natural world in our home, and learn many things and create strength to where nothing from the outside will actually ever be able to harm, hurt, disprove, come in and ruin our home, you know? But cultivating that and understanding that within yourself is the first step, you know? And it also helps us tangibly with home life, with families in the real direct world when we come up to these things, you know? Because they're all similar. So yeah. That's my cyclic view of how energy moves through cycles and circles. And next time in part 6, we'll get into the 5th point of view, where I'll bring in the lemniscat. So thanks for listening. Thanks for taking in what I'm offering here. I'd love to hear anybody's tidbits, point of view. Even if you've got kind critiques, I'll listen, I'll take them for sure. Feel free to send them. Leave them in the comments if you find me online on YouTube or BitChute and you'd like others to see them. It's always great to know that others are watching and that there's organic intelligence absorbing this information and seeking to interact about it. But you can always send me personal emails as well. I always love those. My email's in the description. Or you can find me on Telegram if you use that app. That's the only thing I'm on. You can find me over there on Amory Speaks. Thanks for watching, and I hope I'll see you next time. Bye for now.